Thank you so much, Ms. Copeland. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, perfect. All right, so welcome everyone. Again, I am Shanika Farrell. I am a school counseling department chair at one of the best high schools here in Duval County, and I have the honor to do a presentation today focusing on scholarships. So this is just a condensed version. I definitely encourage you to use this information as a foundational piece and then schedule a meeting with your student school counselor to go a little bit deeper into a more individualized plan for your student. So today is called Show Me the Money. So the topics I'm going to cover, we're going to first briefly do an overview of financial aid and what is financial aid. We will then transfer into scholarships. So what are some scholarships? Where can you find and locate scholarships? How to apply for them? What information do you need available at that time to apply? And then we will end it off with what are your next steps? Perfect. All right. So for financial aid is a financial resource available to help offset the cost of tuition for your student. And that can come in various forms and from different places or organizations. So it can come from the federal government, which is one option where your student would come up through the FAFSA application. So that is through the federal government. The next one is through the state, which is the state of Florida, through their own individualized application. And that does not open up until your student's senior year on October 1st. Then through the college or university where your student may be applying to. So each college and university offers scholarships. Some require an application, while others may require for the student to solely submit the college application, then they're automatically considered for scholarships for that institution. And then lastly, through private sources. So that could be through local organizations, through your church, through an employer. So different things in the community. And I'll go over a more detailed list. All right, so there are two different types of financial aid. So you have your gift aid, and then you also have your self-help aid. And so the gift aid, that is what we want to focus on. That is what we want to try to obtain because ultimately that is money that you do not have to pay back. So the gift aid, those are your scholarships and those are your grants. So there's nothing you will have to pay back. They give you the money and then that money belongs to you. Some of them may require applications, as I stated, some you automatically will be considered for it once you apply to that college or university. The self-help aid, on the other hand, that could be through work study or that could be through loans. So the loans, of course, is something we want to avoid because, of course, you have to pay that money back. And it usually will accrue interest, whether it will accrue interest the moment that that money is dispersed to you, or it will accrue interest once you graduate. So we want to try to avoid loans at all costs and look for those scholarships and grants first. Okay, so there are some different types of scholarships. So you have your need-based, you have your merit-based, talent-based, and then we have the non-need-based. So the need-based is based on your family's financial situation. So how much money does that household make? And so that from that FAFSA application, which is through the federal government, that is what is used to determine what need-based funding you are eligible for. And so you will either be eligible for the Pell Grant, which is through the federal government, or the college or university that your student is applying to, they will consider what additional scholarships are available based on your family's income. The merit base, that is based on academics. So that is based on your student's grade point average and or their test scores. So when your student submits an application for a scholarship, they may require the transcript to see what classes your student is taking, what their grade point average is. And when I say test scores, I'm referring to the SAT and the ACT. I know since COVID, a large number of colleges have become test optional, meaning your student is not required to submit test scores in order to apply for that school. But please note, even though a college may be test optional, a college still may require the test scores in order to be eligible for certain scholarships. So that is something you want to keep in mind. The talent base. So those are for my student athletes. Those are for my artists. If you plan to pursue that major, so if you want to go into a Bachelor's of Fine Arts major in the performing or visual arts, or if you plan to be an athlete and play a sport in a college, that is an opportunity for you to earn scholarships as well. And then there are also competitions available now for students to do and earn scholarships even before your senior year. So of course, there's talent competitions, there are beauty pageants, there are national scholastic competitions that you can enter now and to go ahead and secure funding prior to your senior year. And then your non-need based, that's everything else. That is your church. That is your parent or guardian's employer. That is any nonprofit organization in Jacksonville. As you know, we are one of the largest cities in the nation. So there are so many companies and organizations here that are having so many scholarships available for our students. And so to piggyback off of that, thinking about your community, the requirements, of course, will vary. So what each individual scholarship committee is looking for, it will vary. Same thing as a college. Every college does not look for the same type of factors or characteristics within the student. So each scholarship committee is the same thing. It will vary. One thing to take into consideration is if the scholarship is a one-time scholarship, or is it renewable? And when I say renewable, I mean if you were awarded a $1,000 scholarship, will you only receive it your freshman year of college, or will they offer it to you each year that you keep coming back to that institution? So that is something that you want to know in advance so you can plan accordingly. So to piggyback off of that, again, community organizations, local businesses, churches, your job, your employer, and different competitions are some of the key things to look for scholarships in our community. Okay, so application elements. What things do you need to know or go ahead and prepare when it comes to applying for a scholarship application? So of course, they're going to ask your demographics, your name, what high school you go to, maybe your address. So just your basic demographic information would be important. Extracurricular activities, your community service. So especially my 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. If you have not already done so, I would definitely encourage you to go back and start writing down, keep a running list of everything you're a part of. So every organization in school and outside of school that you have been a part of, what was your role in that organization? What was the mission of that program? And what kind of impact did you have? So that information is definitely important. A lot of times once I meet with my seniors, I'm like, okay, so let's work on your resume. What have you done each year? And it's hard for them to trace back to 9th grade of the things that they've done. So if you are a 9th, 10th, or 11th grader, go ahead and create a spreadsheet or a Word document and list out all of the extracurricular activities and community service projects that you have been a part of throughout your high school years. And another question they will ask for is about your area of study or your major. So if you're not sure, you can always put undecided, but some applications and scholarships may require you to commit to majoring into a certain area. So it could be specifically for engineering. So you just want to make sure you're reading the eligibility requirements. Academic record, that is your transcript. I would encourage each of you to, at the end of every year, ask your school counselor for a copy of your transcript, just to take a look at it, to see exactly what is on there, to make sure, of course, you're on track for graduation so that you also know what your GPA is. So definitely at the end of the year, do a quick review. A lot of our kids take classes on Florida Virtual School as well. So you want to make sure that those classes have been added to your transcript. So I always encourage each student to, at the end of the school year, just take a quick little review of your transcript. The next one is your essay and the personal statement. A lot of times our seniors will, or our students in general, will avoid a scholarship application because it has the essay. I get it. It takes a little time, a little bit more time. Trust me, I understand it does, but it is worth it in the end. A lot of times these scholarship prompts are similar. So you write one really good essay, tweak it how you need to, and you can apply it for the next application. So just think, taking about 3 hours one day to write an essay for an application for a scholarship that you submit, you earn it, and however much money that scholarship. So if the scholarship was $1,000, then you took 3 hours and you already got $1,000. So yes, it takes a little bit good time management, prioritization, but in the end, it is definitely worth it. And then lastly, additional items. So some scholarships may require an interview. They may require a audition or a portfolio. Most of them now are moving towards letters of recommendation, at least one. So it is important for you to begin establishing a relationship with your counselor and your teachers. We are the ones that they are asking for the letter of recommendation for. And it's hard for us to write a letter for someone we are not familiar with. So get to know your teachers, get to know your counselor so we can make sure we can write the best letter of recommendation for you. And then one more thing is sometimes I'll get different scholarships that are specific for a type of student. If I know a kid is applying to a certain college, or if I know a kid wants to major in a certain area, because I've had those interactions with that kid, I know I can then, oh, here's a scholarship for UVA. This kid is going there, wants to apply there. I know I can automatically send it directly to that student because we've had that relationship, we've had that conversation. So just make sure, if you haven't already, schedule an appointment with your school counselor. All right, things to remember. Number one, start early. 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, it is never too early to start looking for money. Granted, most scholarships do not open until the summer before your senior year. However, there is still a population of scholarships available for my 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students. Apply to as many scholarships as possible. Scholarships now are becoming a little bit more competitive. So you want to make sure you're increasing your chances by applying to as many as possible. And also know that, so if the college or university, once that tuition is paid for, whatever additional scholarship money you have over that total comes back into the pocket of the student, not the parent, not the guardian. It comes back to the student. So that could be a couple $1,000s more that you can spend on different things that you may need or you may want. Keep track of deadlines. Scholarship deadlines does not operate the same way your teacher deadlines. Teachers are a little bit more flexible. Scholarships are not. If that scholarship is due December 6th at 11:59 p.m., I need you to make sure it is in there by December 6th, at least by 11:50, because a lot of times these scholarship websites and college application websites crash on that night because everyone's waiting to the last minute. So just make sure ultimately you are paying attention to deadlines and applying early. Make sure you proofread. Proofread your essay, proofread your application. Have someone else, your parent, guardian, sibling, your teacher, have someone else to read over your essay, your application as well, because the committees are looking at everything you put on that document. Make sure you submit all your required documents. I encourage you to make a checklist. So for this scholarship in particular, what do they need? Do they need a letter of recommendation? Do they need a transcript? Do they need an essay? So making a running list, okay, these are the items that they need. Okay, this one is submitted. This one is submitted. So just make sure you figure out a system to keep you organized. I have a spreadsheet that we use, and I will send it over to Ms. Copeland so that she can add this with the recording of the PowerPoint so that you all can have that as a tool to help keep you organized as well. And then lastly, no amount is too little. Free money It's free money. I am working on my third degree and I have absolutely no debt. I've never taken out a loan. I literally take time. I schedule at least a couple hours every other week, about 2 hours every other week to apply for scholarships. Is it a little time consuming? Yes. But here I am, third degree, no debt, no loans, because I just took a little extra time to plan ahead to apply for these scholarships. And like I said, the essays, I literally just tweak them a little bit and then I use them for the next one. And same thing with letters of recommendation as well. So once you have your solid foundation, it's just a matter of tweaking a little bit and then resubmitting. All right, so what to do now? So I mentioned the scholarship search organizer. So that is just a spreadsheet that we created that helps you to list out, this is the scholarship, these are the eligibility requirements, these are the deadlines, these are the things that they are requiring of me. So it's just something to help keep you organized. Make sure, I would encourage you to identify at least 5 scholarships per semester. And that's on the minimum side. I would encourage you to look up and identify at least 5 scholarships each semester for you to apply for. Make sure you draft a resume. So a few slides ago, I mentioned go ahead and list out all of your extracurricular activities, all of your community service projects, because some of our scholarships are requesting students to have a resume. So I would encourage you to go ahead and start drafting the resume out. Meet with your school counselor. We're like the Google of the school. So I would definitely encourage you just to do a semesterly check-in with your school counselor, just again, so that they can get to know you, so that it's never too early to start planning. So even my 9th grade babies that are on here, definitely go ahead, stop by your school counselor's office to ask these questions. Every school has their own method of communicating with students and families. So at our school, we use the Microsoft Teams, and we have a whole Tuition Tuesday channel. So every Tuesday, I am posting scholarships on there consistently. And so that's how we operated at my school. So at your student school, ask them, where can we find scholarships? They may post them on the website or on a blog or on their Instagram. So reach out to your student school counselor to see their method of communication. And lastly, of course, apply again, and keep applying. Even when you get to college, still apply. There are still scholarships available even once you get to college. And then these are just some of the quick resources of scholarship websites that we are familiar with. This is just a handful of them. Please be aware of scholarship scams. If there is ever a scholarship that asks for your routing number, your bank information, a credit card, please do not submit that information there. There are a lot of people who are out there trying to scam people these days. So make sure if it asks for any of that, we should not have to pay to get money. So make sure you are avoiding any of these scams. But these are some trustworthy websites that are available that a lot of our kids use. But again, make sure you are connecting with your school counselor to see how they share out their information. If your student is currently a senior, if whatever colleges that they are applying for right now, Google the name of the college and type in scholarships. And so you want to find out if that college in particular requires an additional application. So for example, if your senior wants to go to the University of Central Florida, they require a separate application for scholarships. So you want to make sure you are checking each institution that your student is applying to in order to see if there's anything additional you may need to do in order to be considered for funding. And apply early. So if those scholarship deadlines, if it's not until, a few months from now, money is first come, first serve. So if that deadline, you want to make sure you do it as soon as you see it posted. All right, and that concludes my PowerPoint. I'm sure there are some questions in the chat that I am ready to answer.
A question is, where do you find the transcript? So a student's academic transcript, where would they get that?
Perfect. So you can access that information in Focus. So you should go ahead and create a Focus account. If you go to the Duval County Public School website, and under the under the departments, there's parent, and on the Focus tab, create a parent account. And once you link your student to your account, your student will be able to access their unofficial transcript posted there.
Hi, I have a question. My daughter's a senior, and I was wondering about local scholarship opportunities. Like, is there somewhere that I can find maybe a list of like the law offices or churches and things that we may not officially be affiliated with, but we would like to know about those Jacksonville and Duval County scholarships, fraternities, etc.
Gotcha. So we don't have necessarily a list of those. We usually, as counselors, receive them as individual emails from the organization. They'll email us the flyer or they'll email us the information, and then we post it on Teams. So I would reach out to the school counselor for your student school to see where they posting that information. So I know for us in particular, every organizational scholarship from Jacksonville that we receive, it goes directly to our Teams page. And that's where we post it for our kids to have access to it there. So see if your student school has that same resource.
All right, another question that came in is there a limit to the number of scholarships you can apply for?
No. Apply to as many as possible. Some colleges, more so your private colleges, may have a cap on how much scholarships you can receive. So if the cost of tuition is $10,000, they may not accept anything over that $10,000, which means your student wouldn't get a refund check. But other than that, there is no limit on the amount of scholarships you can apply for. So apply to as many as possible.
We have, if my daughter is a junior, when do they apply?
So it depends. All scholarships have different eligibility requirements. Some you may be able to apply now as a 9th, 10th, or an 11th grader. Some it may say specifically for a 12th grade student. So it really just depends on what the specific eligibility requirements are for that scholarship. So like some scholarships, you may have to be a certain grade, you may have to be a certain race, you may have to go to a certain school or a certain major. So every scholarship has different eligibility requirements. So it's just a matter of reading through that information to determine if your student is eligible for it or not. But majority of the scholarships that we receive is typically for seniors.
Good to know. All right, we've got a specific UF question. Do you have a list of scholarships, or where do you find that info for UF?
University of Florida is a little different. They don't have, they have very few scholarships you can apply for. It's more so you submit your application for the college and then you're automatically considered for any other additional scholarships. And most of those are merit based. So based on grades and GPA and test scores. So yeah, UF is a little different. Same thing like FSU. Both of them are based on just automatic consideration. There's no separate application for your student to fill out.
Good to know. I didn't realize that. All right, I did have a follow-up question. Originally, one of the first questions that was put out there was, where do we find the transcript? The parent then said, I have a Focus account and I still couldn't find it there. Can you, and I'm trying to rack my brain to think where it's found.
So without seeing Focus, it's hard for me to visualize it. But from the student's from the student's view, there should be something that says grades. It should be a grades tab, and once that next screen comes up, there should be in the middle of the page on the right, it should be a drop down option where you can click DCPS academic transcript. But if you're unable to see it electronically, then I would suggest just contacting the school counselor and they can easily send it to your baby.
I second that. School counselors can easily print that out. Also, from the parent perspective, we may not be able to print a transcript, but from the student's Focus account, they may be able to access their transcript. So that may be the glitch in the direction. So ask your student about that. Are you available to help students to help write their essays or their resumes? Is that something that you do?
So that is something that school counselors support in for the student. So I think it just depends on the school counselor as far as timing goes and how much individualized support is available for that particular student. But I mean, as school counselors, yes, we can offer support and guidance for our students. And some schools do also have different workshops for their seniors. I know at our school, we've had quite a few already for our seniors, and we'll start with our juniors in the spring as well. So it just depends on the school, but I'm pretty sure your school student school counselor can meet with your student to kind of support on those essays and scholarships.
All right, we have another one. Good question here. Should students get just one teacher and or counselor recommendation and then reuse it for all their applications, or asking for different letters for different applications?
That's a good question. I always encourage our students to have 3 ready. Have a school counselor, have a academic teacher, and then if you are very involved in the community, or if you are an athlete, or if you are an artist, that will be the 3rd one. So those are the 3 that I would definitely encourage you to have. Some scholarships may specifically want just an academic teacher, or they may specifically want a counselor, but you can definitely reuse the same one. It's as long as it's a strong, letter, your student has a good relationship with that teacher, with that counselor, and you feel like that person knows your child well enough to write a strong letter, then reuse that one. I think that's totally fine, but make sure that the teacher is tweaking it in the way that it needs to. So if it's for the UF Lombardi scholarship, we want to make sure it doesn't say UF Lombardi scholarship when we're now applying to the UCF scholarship. So just make sure that your teacher, counselor, stakeholder person is tweaking it the way that it needs to be in order to be applicable for that specific application. But yes, reusing the same person to multiple scholarships is totally fine.
I think that's a wrap. Make sure that we respect, look at me talking and my camera's not even on. Want to respect everyone's time tonight. So if we're done, I won't hold you up. I know we got to still do dinner and sports and baths and all that, arguments and all the things we need to do. So folks, again, we're so grateful to have you. Ms. Farrell, you did a phenomenal job. We're so appreciative. Parent Academy is always here to serve our families, but we can't do it without our volunteers. And this was Ms. Farrell volunteering for all of us tonight. Thank you for joining us, families. We appreciate you, and we certainly hope that you will be able to join us again in the future. Ms. Farrell, wonderful job. We appreciate you. Good night, families. Thanks again.